I'm in a New York state of mind.
New York.
New York City is the place where they said, hey, babe.
Says he was the closest thing New York had to a Dirty Harry.
No good deed ever goes unpunished.
That FBI agent guy, somebody told me he's got your phones tapped.
The kind of old-fashioned cop who preferred working the streets and making arrests to taking tests toward promotion.
You're assigned to evangelism case in Athens.
All points bulletin for the Bo Dietl Show on the Gas Digital Network. Here's your host, Bo Dietl.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm joined here right now with my producer, Carlo.
Hello.
I just want to thank everyone for all the emails and tweets. Now, I'll tell you something. Now you're part of the Tough Tribe. Tell your friends to subscribe and give us a great review. As always, we encourage all our audience to email us with questions at onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. That's onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. You know, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Today, we're going to be talking about a case that was before the gentleman got into those planes and crashed into the World Trade Center. It was the largest mass murder in New York City history, and that was the Palm Sunday Massacre of 1984. It's really a famous case because there were 10 dead. 8 of them were children under 12 and under. And the man that committed this heinous crime, believe it or not, 2018, he just got out of fucking jail. Everybody goes, Bo, it's impossible. But you want to know something? We're going to talk about the case. We're going to tell you a little bit of the intricacies of what occurred during that time. And it's just, I just still can't believe that this fucking guy is out there. He killed 10 dead. And I'll never forget the sight of walking there and seeing 10 dead, including children. One little girl, it's right in my brain. It's embedded in my brain. She was holding Jell-O chocolate pudding in her left hand, and she had a spoon in her right hand, and she was shot in the head, including other children grasping for their moms. Let's backtrack.
All right, Bo. So last episode, we talked about the infamous 1981 rape and assault of a nun in East Harlem. And after that case, you were expecting to get a promotion. You were expecting all these accolades from the police brass, but that didn't happen. So tell us what happened after you cracked that case.
Well, people don't understand about the police department. There's a lot of politics that go on. It seems as though the hardest working cops are the ones that get in the most trouble. You know, I am the recipient, I think, 40 civilian complaints. I also made the arrest of thousands of felons. I never killed anybody. I probably had the opportunity. I went over my lifetime, and I was stabbed through my hand. A guy shot at me 5 times. I mean, so many instances when I was a decoy, when a guy's holding a gun at you, I could have killed him, but I always depended on my physical strength. And I never killed anybody, but that's not the problem. The problem is the bureaucracy with the police department. When you're out there doing the job, you're going to get involved. Every day of the year, every day, millions of interactions with cops back and forth. Like something just comes to my head. There was a shooting in Pittsburgh with a kid that got shot in the back. That's not right. The cop was wrong to shoot him in the back. But they're not talking about that there was a shooting. There was a drive-by shooting, and they found 2 loaded guns in the car. But yet, the liberal media don't bring that out. This wasn't a young boy going to Sunday school. He was involved with some shootings and, just things like this. Any cops that get involved are going to have problems. And when we were working up in East Harlem, Tom Collar and I and Jack Freck, we got involved with a lot of cases. And back then, I was a person that would make overtime. Back then, you don't understand something. We used to have to take our prisoners to central booking. We'd have to fingerprint them ourselves and bring them down. Then you would have to wait in court for them to be arraigned. So overtime incurred. And I was number 1 in overtime, I think, in 1977, 1978. Yeah. And I also made the most arrests at that time, felony arrests. So overtime came with arrests. And I took a lot of shit for that, but you want to know something? When you wanted me to go out and do my job, I went out and I did my job. It's not my fault that overtime incurred with that. So when when we broke the case, Tom Collar and I, the famous nun rape case back in '81, where they carved 27 crosses into the nun, where we discussed in our last podcast. I thought we were going to be accolades, which we did. We got from the governor, we got the governor's award, city council, every major organization. The only ones that didn't give us any kind of accolades was the New York City Police Department. Now we got to back up. When Tom worked, we were street cops. We were not part of this huge task force from the detective division. You have the detective division, and then you have the street cops. You have the street crime guys on the street. The street crime guys are the guys that get into the shit. The detective squads, if people don't know, are the fancy guys with the suits, and they walk in after the crime and they investigate it. We were right on the streets in the shit, and we were breaking crime. So
every day you were.
Yeah, so the part of the thing was that we thought that we were going to get all kinds of accolades, which we did. We were front page of all the newspapers, newsreels. We got the awards, the heroes of this, heroes of that. Big one was the Governor Award, City Council. Mayor Koch was really good with us and all that. And then all of a sudden, I was a white shield cop, anti-crime cop, and I was very happy because I was able to get and make all this overtime. Because if you had a gold shield, a detective badge, you were limited to overtime. So I always wanted to just make as much money as I can because the salary sucked and it was good to make overtime. So I kept the white shield. But then I finally said, well, everybody in my family, Bo, you're such a famous cop. How come you don't have a detective shield? So I said, you know what? I will become a detective. So they had a thing called the Integrity Review Board. So if you locked somebody up and they tried to bribe you, you would wear a wire. You would record them trying to give you money to try to get out of the crime. And one of the big crimes that I was involved with, a guy killed a guy, and then all of a sudden he was a drug dealer, and he offered me and my partner $10,000 cash. And I said, well, you know, my sergeant's got to okay this. And I brought him back. I put a wire on, and I was able to nail him for a bribery of a New York City cop. And that was a bribery review. And when you had these bribery review groups there, they would go over your whole career to promote you to detective, possibly. Or you could go another route. You could work in narcotics, public morals, but I didn't want to go into public morals, narcotics. I want to stay on the street. So now we lock up the two guys that raped the nun. We're everywhere. But if you remember, there was a guy named Jimmy Sullivan. He was the chief of detectives. He was pretty pissed off at us for breaking this case because we weren't part of his detective division. This is politics that you got to face.
Made him look bad.
Yeah, well, not made him look bad. It's just two broken down street cops broke one of the biggest cases. And all of a sudden, I go before the Integrity Review Board, think I'm going to get promoted. And they tell me you're not getting promoted. I said, that's bullshit. So I go storm into the police commissioner's office down one police plaza, and I go, I want to talk to the commissioner. Also, David Scott, he was a black captain, I believe, at that time. He eventually became a chief. He comes out and he goes, Bo, Commissioner McGuire knows all about you, Bo. He goes, and I threw my badge down. I said, you know what? I'll fucking quit. I said, this is bullshit. You give your life there. I was hospitalized, I think, 30 times. And I was out there getting mugged. We had 500 times I got mugged, and that's all documentation. And I said, these fucking guys are fucking with me. Here, take your badge. I don't want to be a cop anymore. All of a sudden, I'll never forget him. Big, tall, giant of a black man came out, and he says, my name's Captain Scott, and the commission knows all about it. And he hands me my badge back. He goes, do me a favor. Calm down. Give me 3 days, okay, please? Because we know what's going on. I take my badge back. He was so kind. I'll never forget him. And he's the one, probably he's the difference between me quitting the police department and not, because he was so nice. And when he told me that Bob McGuire, the commissioner, knew all about me and knew what was going on. So now I go into I go back to my command, back to the 2-5 anti-crime, and everyone doesn't believe what's going on. We're getting accolades, awards from everywhere except the police department. Now I get a call they're going to have a promotion of 50 detectives, and I'm not on that list. So now Scott calls me up and says, look, these chiefs all want to see you down there. So there was, I think, 5 or 6 chiefs. You had Chief Guido. He was the chief of the internal affairs. You had Chief Sullivan, the chief of detectives, and these other chiefs there. And I go before them, and they're all sitting there. And why do you think you should be promoted? I told my whole career, and I says, it's not my fault that we weren't part of your detective. I said right to the chief of detectives, I'm sorry we weren't in the detective division. All we did was we locked up the guys that raped this nun, and that's it.
You did your job.
Yeah, and he's just looking on, and one of the things was Chief Guido was looking at me. They always thought that I was mobbed up because of obvious reasons, growing up with Gotti and Scopo. They could suck my dick because I was not mobbed up. I was Bo Dietl. I had respect for the wise guy. To this day, I have respect from wise guys. You know why? I did my job. I never worked in organized crime. That was their business. As long as they didn't hurt anybody I knew or hurt anybody in the confines of my official duty, I didn't care what the fuck they did. They were out there before me, and they'll be out there after me. So now I walk away, and I said, this is bullshit. I says, if I don't get promoted, I'm leaving. I'm going to quit the police department. Believe it or not, I was like, I'm a very strong-headed guy. So now I get the phone call to show up at promotion. You were added on by the police commissioner. He heard everything. Although the panel said, well, we should give Bo 6 months and we'll see if he gets in any problems. After 6 months, we'll promote him. The commissioner, Bob McGuire, said, that's fucking bullshit. I went through his career and he's got all these medals, all these awards, everything. He gets promoted on promotion day. So now 50 guys get their detective badges. All of a sudden, 51, Bo Dietl, and I'll never forget, I walk up there, and I walk and seen all these chiefs. I walk up to the chief of detectives. They're all sitting down, and I didn't just take my detective badge. I shook each one of their fucking hands, and I shook Chief Sullivan. I looked him in the eye. I says, thank you, and I knew he was against me. Then Chief Guido, he was the chief of the internal affairs, and he whispers to me, I'll put fucking handcuffs on you yet, Bo. I says, no, you're never going to put handcuffs. Maybe you'll fire me for some administrative bullshit, but you'll never put handcuffs. I didn't give a fuck. I'm Bo Dietl, and you know what? They couldn't shine my ball bag, and they were no kind of a cop like I was. And I was a hard-working cop, and I respect hard-working cops out there. And so now they promote me. So I thought I was going to stay in East Harlem. We knew it well, me and Tommy. Mysteriously, all of a sudden, I get the orders. They transfer me to this place in Brooklyn, the 7-5 precinct, the worst precinct in New York. Tom Colleran gets shipped over to the 88 precinct in Brooklyn. The other end, they separate us. That was our reward. So when I get there, all of a sudden, I walk in there, and now I'm a detective. I never went through the training to be a detective, but there ain't no fucking training. You're a cop, you're a cop. So now, next thing is I just get there. I'll never forget, there was a homicide on the subway, and Bo, you got this case. The Lieutenant Herbie Holman, big heavyset guy, great guy, one of the best lieutenants I ever worked for. And we're on the scene there, and I never forget Herbie's fist fighting with a lieutenant from transit. It's ours. No, it's mine. It's ours. And I'm just standing there laughing. They're arguing over who has the jurisdiction of a fucking dead guy on the platform. Eventually, we became all one, which was the best thing that happened. So now I go back to the precinct, and the lieutenant says, you're off that homicide, Bo. We just had a robbery of 200 people in the Jehovah Witness church. You're on that. So I shoot over there. Next thing is I grab the anti-crime guys because I was very familiar with them. They knew the streets. I got them on board, and all of a sudden we ended up locking up these 3 guys, this team that robbed everybody. It was a big involvement. And the next thing is I locked them up, and I started getting cases, and then you get what they call a 61, and you're assigned to it. So I started going out locking people up for the crimes they were committing. All of a sudden, a couple of the detectives come over to me and go, you're supposed to close these things out. You're making us look fucking bad. I said, go fuck yourself. My whole thing was, you know what, I'm here to do a job, and that's the way it's going to be. So now I go through.
Is that how, police policing was changing. It was more stats oriented.
Well, you know what? Stats were always coming into play, but then stats didn't mean shit because we had mass murders. Then we had 2,000 murders a year, hundreds of thousands of robberies and all that. The city was a shithole, and the 7-5 was a real shithole. We used to have over 100 murders in that one precinct every fucking year. Every Friday and Saturday night, you knew someone was going to get fucking whacked, and that's the way it was.
So we're talking about the 7-5 precinct is in East New York.
Yeah, covers East New York. It's on the border of Brooklyn and Queens. And what we had there is they used to kill people other places, dump bodies there. And it was called the Killing Fields.
Wow.
And it was one of the most notorious areas. So then all of a sudden a lieutenant saw my energy and he goes, boy, I want to put you in a homicide team. I said, what? So that means that all I'm going to do is homicides. Not do homicides, investigate fucking homicides, right? So you're catching cases. I'm out there.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'll never forget there was this guy called King Dread. He's probably the mayor of some of the big cities. Maybe he's the mayor of Baltimore by now. He killed 5 people. He used to have these long dreadlocks, and he used to threaten everybody. And one of the things that came to mind was I'm investigating him for a couple of murders, and I knew his girlfriend lived in this one place. So I watched outside. Now I'm a detective now, and I have my partners with me. They go, "But what do you got?" I said, "That fucking guy, I got his phone number. I went to the phone booth. I called the girlfriend's house, and all of a sudden, yeah, man." He answered the phone. I said, "King?" He goes, "Yeah, what the fuck you want?" Boom, I hang up. Now I know the motherfucker's in the apartment. Is that enough to get a warrant? Who gives a fuck about a fucking warrant? He's there. He killed 5 fucking people. We're going to get this motherfucker. So all of a sudden I call up. This time I call up emergency service. And I lied. I said I saw him at the window. I didn't see him at no fucking window. He answered the phone. He was there. You know, sometimes you got to do things a little bit. You got to get creative. When he killed the 5 people, he was creative too. Fuck him. So now the emergency service hit there. We crashed the door down. This fuck ain't nowhere around. I said, oh, fuck. Here we go. So next thing is, I'm looking around. I says, this motherfucker answered that phone in that apartment. This guy's hiding somewhere. So I hear a sound in the ceiling. There's a crawl space. All of a sudden, I go like this to the emergency service guys. I says, shh. And I point up there. Next thing is I go into the closet in the bedroom. I get a fucking chair. Now there's no emergency service guys going first. I'm going first again. And my little double-barrel shotgun I used to carry around was a slug and a 12 gauge. And I put it together. And now I'm walking up there, and I'm climbing up there. In the rafters, across the rafters, I hold the shotgun out. I see this motherfucker hiding. I say, motherfucker, I'll blow your fucking brains out. Put your fucking hands up, right? And all of a sudden, he knew when he saw the shotgun, whatever he was thinking about, he didn't do it. Next thing is, he puts down, he had a Mac 10, wow. And he had a 9mm. So now I grab him, and I pull him out of the ceiling. Half the ceiling came down. I grabbed him by his fucking dreadlocks and ripped him out of the fucking ceiling. He's down there, and then he was fighting with me a little bit. I'll never forget, there was a picture of Haile Selassie. He was like the Jamaican god or something. So I took the fucking painting, not painting, it was a picture, and I smashed it on his head. I says, here you go, here's your man. You're with him now. Loaded Mac 10, loaded 9mm, and he killed 5 fucking people. So we were on a kind of a roll. So, I mean, look, did I do everything by the Marcus of Queensberry rules? Fuck no. But I was very successful. I never flaked anybody. I never took anybody down that was innocent, or I never ever put anything on them. I never stole anything, never stole money from anybody. I was a cop's cop. I was one tough fucking cop, and I'm proud of it. So now everybody says, oh, you sound braggadocious. Yeah, I am braggadocious. I got through a whole fucking police career without killing anybody, and I was able to do the right thing. So now
locking up the criminals that needed to be locked up. Yeah,
remind me about something during the investigation of the Palm Sunday Massacre. What happened with the 3 7-year-old little black kids there in the apartment? Because that's very important with people understanding what the insides of what I'm all about on the inside. So now we locking up people, and one guy killed 2 people, and he came up from South America. He was a hitman, and he shot a guy while he was sleeping in bed. And then all of a sudden, he brings this girl up to the bar. It was an after-hour club. He puts one in her head, and her blood is splurting out of her head, and he makes everybody have drinks. He killed 2 people. So now we find out where he is, and he's on the 2nd floor. So we hit there with 4 detectives. So I tell them, look, I'll take the basement. You guys go and knock on the door. This way, I'm coming up the other side. Now, as I'm coming up there, I hear all kinds of commotion. I had my trusty double-barrel shotgun with me at the time. I put it together. So now I run upstairs. I see this guy, and I got pictures of him too. Big, massive guy, strong guy, long hair from Colombia or one of the Venezuela or some shit, but he was a hitman. So I get up there, the cops, he's fighting with him, and next thing is I grab him by the arm, and I go, let go, and I take him and I rip his fucking arm, and I take it right out of his socket. I dislocate his shoulder, goes down, and then I took my shotgun. I didn't shoot him. He put 3 guys in the 3 detectives he put into the hospital.
So he killed 2 people, put 3 detectives in the hospital.
And then I took my shotgun, instead of killing the fucking guy, I took it, I smashed it on his fucking head until I could handcuff the fucking guy. Beat the shit out of him until I could get him handcuffed. So they asked me in the grand jury, what happened? I says, I used necessary force. I said, this fucking guy killed 2 people, put 3 detectives on. Now you're saying to me I hit him with the fucking shotgun too hard? Fuck you. That was my attitude. Hey, that guy, if he had the capability, he would have killed me and the other detectives. So now,
all these appearances before the brutality and all this stuff, were these complaints that were complained by the defense attorney, or was it?
Oh no, the Legal Aid Society. The Legal Aid Society had supervisors assigned to my cases.
So they were watching you. They were looking.
Everybody I brought in there, they question, what did he do? And were you handcuffed when he hit him? Oh, of course that was handcuffed. That was everyone's allegation, which was bullshit.
So they were all out to get you.
Well, they want to take me out. The Legal Aid Society didn't like it. So now, fast forward, Palm Sunday Massacre.
So tell us about that night. So what kind?
It wasn't night. It wasn't night. It was afternoon.
Okay.
It was. I was off. It was a Sunday afternoon. It was Palm Sunday, and I wasn't home. I was someplace else. And I used to call in when I was working to just see what was going on. Like I was a fucking buff. They call it buff. I was always a cop, 24 hours a day. So I wanted to find out exactly what the hell was going on with in the station house. So what the hell was his name? He was a White Shield detective, and I call up there, and he goes like this. He goes, Bo, we have 6 or 7 dead on Liberty Avenue, 1080 Liberty Avenue. I said, get the fuck out of here. So I get in my car, and one thing, it was morning. It was morning, around 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It was raining, torrential rains. Rain was coming in sideways. I'll never forget, I walk into the apartment. It was a ground floor apartment at 1080 Liberty. And what I saw is burnt into my brain again that I'll never forget. Were all these bodies laying around, but they were laying around. They were all shot in the head. Kids, like I said, with the chocolate pudding, the young girl. And I looked around and I said, oh my God. And there was one kid, I think she was about 18 months old, the little girl who eventually was the only survivor of the Palm Sunday Massacre. She was alive. And then the famous policewoman who became the chief of the police department, she was there. She was the patrol uniform officer. She took the little girl. And now my Lieutenant Herbie Holman shows up and says, Deedle, what the fuck you doing here? At the scene. They wouldn't let him go inside. They told him the chief of detectives was Nick Castro, good chief of detectives. Sullivan was gone. And next thing is, the chief of detectives told Herbie, go back to the 7-5, start coordinating this thing. So now they started putting a task force together. And I go back to the precinct. I said, Lieutenant, all my murders, all my homicides are cleared up. I want to get involved with this case. And he goes, all right, Bo, you're on it with, I had my partner, and we were involved in this thing from the beginning. And so the next thing that happens is we started to get information. You get phone calls from here. There were a Colombian hit gang because the Colombian drug dealers were noted for killing everybody. So it was very obvious in my mind. This had to be someone who knew them because they had to kill everybody.
It was methodical. So they came in and they never know what hit him.
Why do you kill kids? I mean, why is everybody killed? And then all of a sudden we started following up. I'll never forget we used to have a big blackboard there, and Jimmy McAlvin was my partner. Jim McAlvin, he was a black guy. He was my detective partner, and Jimmy McAlvin and I were working on it. We're following up. Then the phone rings a day or two later, and there's this guy gets on the phone. And I think he was Hispanic, and he goes, "Look, I was there. I saw from the street. I saw this guy kill everybody. I know what happened." This went on where he'd call up, hang up from phone booths for a fucking week. He had me in Prospect Park going to the middle of the field. He made me take my fucking shirt off and go to the middle of the field. And then all of a sudden he would call up again from the phone booth, had me go to another phone. The guy fucking jerked me off for a week. And I was really pissed off. My lieutenant was pretty pissed off. So now we set the guy up. We find out where he's calling from. We grab him. We bring him into this 7-5. So motherfucker, you had us for a week running around where we're investigating one of the most major murders in New York history. So what do you really fucking know? He goes, well. I said, what do you mean fucking well? You had me running around for a fucking week, take my shirt off. He starts laughing. I said, what the fuck are you laughing about? He goes, well, I really didn't see anything. I wasn't even there, but I wanted to be part of this story. At that point, my lieutenant grabbed him by the fucking neck and smashed him against the fucking wall. We never locked him up. We threw him out of the station. Now, this guy had us for a week running around like yo-yos. So now
let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So at the time when this happened, so you were getting a flood of calls because this obviously made the papers. What was the public reaction? Because this at the time was the largest mass murder in New York I'd ever seen.
Front pages of every paper, every newsreel. Everybody was very concerned about this case being broke. And then there was a phone call. We had to monitor every phone call coming in. We had guys answering the phone, and then we put up on the board different leads. And there was one guy, I'll never forget, the phone call came in about a guy the guy worked in the 911 for the police department, and he says he knew that the father was involved with drug dealing. And the first time I heard the name Christopher Thomas was on one of those phone calls. So now the father, Bermudez, was involved with drug dealing.
The father of some of the kids that were
the kids, right. So
but he wasn't there at the time.
So we had to go to the district attorney, and we actually had to get immunity for this drug dealing scumbag, which he was. He was a scumbag too. And the DA gave him immunity so we could get all the information out, and we didn't care about drug dealing. We care about 10 people dead, man. That takes priority. So in questioning him, all of a sudden he talks about he was dealing cocaine, and then the light went off again. He goes, well, this guy Christopher Thomas owed me $7,000. Christopher Thomas come up again. Remember the first phone call from the 911?
So now you have two references to
Christopher Thomas. So now I said, Lieutenant, we're going to work on this fucking Christopher Thomas. So I tell Jimmy McAlvin, come on, let's take a ride. At the same time, we're looking for witnesses. We're looking for witnesses that may have heard or saw something from the street. Because remember, street level. So the shots, somebody could hear it, see somebody going it out. So now we go. I said, come on, to Jimmy, let's go up to where his girlfriend lives, up to the South Bronx, off the Grand Concourse. We knock on the door with his girlfriend, and I go, I just came out of my fucking head. I go, hey, look it, we're from the 4-4 precinct here. We're looking for fucking Christopher Thomas. Now, the 4-4 is up there in the Bronx. We're 7-5 homicide detectives from Brooklyn. So I wanted to throw this fuck off. So I bang on the door. Then the girlfriend, Charlene, I think her name was Charlene, whatever her name is, she opened up the door halfway. She goes, well, he's not here. What's this about? I said, you tell that fucking guy, stay away from the washing machines downstairs. Stop breaking into the fucking washing machine, stealing the quarters. Close the door. So now I'm using a ruse.
Because you don't want him to know that
I'm investigating the murder of 10 people. So next thing is we go down to the car. From behind us comes this guy. I'll never forget him. Christopher Thomas. His fucking eyes were rolling around like... And next thing he goes, I'm Christopher Thomas. I wasn't stealing anything from any washer. I said, you motherfucker. I said, if I got to come back here, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. Stay away from the washing machines. As I'm driving away with Jimmy, I go, that's our fucking boy. That's a psycho fucking path. So we drive away, but now we have to develop more evidence. So we got some witnesses we're interviewing. Then we go to an old house where he lived in there. We go where the Mercy serves. Sure enough, a round that is the same type, a round that matches up to the rounds that were found in the apartment where the Palm Sunday Massacre. So now we got a round.
They have solid evidence.
Well, not solid. You got a round that matches the same rounds that were in the apartment. You got to get more. It's like a puzzle. You can't just lock them up. So now we put them under surveillance. We have a team surveilling Christopher Thomas. And fast forward, I'm investigating. We're trying to get witnesses. And here comes now, all of a sudden, I go to this apartment building. We're looking for a witness. And I walk in there, and it's these three young black kids, 7 years old, triplets, and they had feces on them, no clothes on, dirty apartment. I opened up the refrigerator. There was no fucking food in there. So I go, where's your mother? She went to the store. So I waited 20 minutes, 20 minutes to a half an hour. Next thing I'm getting called on the radio to call the precinct. We didn't have cell phones. I had nowhere to fucking call. So now the mother comes back. I said, let me tell you something. I'll be back here every week. If these kids ain't cleaned up and fed and you got food in that refrigerator, I'm taking these kids away from you. So I get back to the precinct. My Lieutenant Herbie starts yelling at me. What the fuck? Where are you? I said, there was 3 kids abandoned in an apartment. He goes, you're a fucking homicide detective. You're not a child welfare bureau. I said, that's the fucking problem. I said, Herbie, these kids were left alone there. I'm not leaving them in a fucking apartment. So he just says, Bo, let's focus on the murder. That's 10 people. So that was just one portion of, I cared about people. It wasn't all about being a tough cop. It was, I cried too when I saw those kids. Emotionally, it's burnt into my brain.
Of course.
Seeing these kids dead. So now we're investigating, and now we get a kid that says he saw somebody leaving the apartment. These were kids that were out front of where there was a bakery next door. So now the kid goes, I saw him. So we do a photo array, 6 pictures, and he picks out Christopher Thomas. Okay. He said, I think that's him. Okay. Now we're dealing with the DA. We tell him we got the round, we got this. So the DA says, okay, I think he's got enough to go pick him up. Go get him. So I already arranged prior to that with Bermuda's, the father. I said, why don't we do a phone call? You call him up. Tell him you want to meet him in the South Bronx over there by the market over there, Hunts Point Market. So I said, I'll lay in the back seat of the car. You drive. We'll go see him. I knew one thing. He was coming with a gun to kill Bermudez. So I knew, and I had my little trusty double barrel shotgun. I had that with me a lot. Did I ever use it? Not fucking once. I used it as a nightstick, but I never killed anybody. But a lot of guys should have been taken out. So now I try to meet him. But the surveillance team said, we don't know where he is. He's not answering Bermudez. He's off the charts. Now
he's in the wind.
We don't know what the fuck, where
so
he
you
is.
Finally crack it, and now you can't find him.
You can't find him. So now we start looking. So we start checking the houses of detention. So we find out he's in the Bronx house of detention. And you know what the charge is for?
What was he doing?
Raping and sodomizing his mother.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what he was in jail for. So we took him out of there, and the next thing is, in our investigation, we bring him back. Now you get all the cameras all over the place. 1,000 people out front of the 7-5. Everybody wants this guy fucking hung from the rafters. And then Chief Nicastro was there, and he goes, Bo, when you do the lineup, give me a thumbs up when he identifies them. So we have the lineup. We have the legal aid is there. The DA's there. Next thing is I line them up through the two-way mirror, and the kid's there, and the kid was scared shit. So they were all standing there, and now he's looking at the lineup. And I said, which one? He goes, I said, which one? He goes, I can't tell. I said, well, you picked him out of photo lineup. I said he looked like him. He goes, I only saw the right side of his face. I said, the right side of his face. So I ran out. All of a sudden, the cashier, the chief of detectives, gives me a thumbs up, and I go up and down, like we didn't do. So I make them all stand to the right where they would see the side of his face. Come back, bing! I think it was 3 or 4. Picked them right out. I said, holy shit. Great, now we got the case. So in investigating this also, we find out that Christopher Thomas also killed his girlfriend they had a trial. He killed her in a motel in the Bronx. He also killed a guy named Green. He was tried for the murder of the girlfriend. Some stupid, we didn't have DNA. He beat that one. He never was tried with the Green case, which we then only brought up recently, trying to get evidence together to retry him. So now we go to court. I testified during the trial, and this genius jury comes back, convicting him for 10 counts of manslaughter, because they said they feel as though he was high on cocaine, so he didn't know what the fuck he's going to do. So people out there, you want to kill somebody, do a couple of hits of cocaine and tell them you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. He gets off from murder, and he gets convicted of manslaughter of 10 counts, and then he gets some stupid sentence. And he's out now. I just was with State Senator Golden and Malatakis, the Assemblywoman. We just got legislation passed in the New York State Senate and the New York Assembly that no one convicted of manslaughter can get out earlier than what their sentence is. But he's out. And this is a perfect example of the law being blinded again.
So let's go through that. So he was tried, convicted, but on a reduced charge for manslaughter, and the judge at the time sentenced him to 80 to 250 years, thinking that he would never ever see the light of day. So, 30 years later, due to the technicality in the law, and for good behavior, apparently. Well,
ain't you supposed to have good behavior when you're doing fucking time, or you're supposed to be bad behavior?
So he was released. He was released in January to widespread outrage.
Yeah, widespread outrage, including my widespread outrage. And it's just the parole board's up there. Herman Bell killed 2 cops, and they're releasing everybody. I mean, at what point do these people who are dead have their right? They have no right. I wrote letters to the parole board. Never was I notified that he was being released. Nobody was notified. They let him fucking out on this good behavior. I think 1/3 off or some bullshit. Good behavior. Where was the good behavior of those little children who never got to see fucking Christmas, never got to enjoy their lives, and this scumbag is out now, and that's it. It rips my insides out. The 2 creeps that raped the nun, put brooms in her, they're fucking out too. I think, like I said, maybe one's the mayor of a major city. It takes your insides out that they could commit a crime like this.
So savage and be released.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important that this law gets passed.
We're working together with the cold case crime squad.
So let's talk about that. So, we alluded to the fact that Christopher Thomas was a suspect in 2 other murders that were never closed out. So so there is the possibility of him. Well,
the Green murder on the Grand Concourse, when they killed him, Christopher killed him, he was never arrested for that. So this wouldn't be double jeopardy. And homicide, murder, has no statute of limitation. So we're working with the cold case squad. But you got to understand something. A lot of the evidence,
it's gone.
Where is it? I mean, look, this guy probably will get away with another murder, and that's the way it is. It's frustrating. People do things in moments of passion, husband and wife, and they do something stupid and they're sorry for it. This fucking creep really killed 12 people, man, and he's out having a good old time, man. He's probably looking for me. I'm here, so if you have the fucking balls to face me, he'll probably, the way I'll get killed is from the back, because he ain't gonna have the fucking balls to face me. So if that's God's will, that's God's will. I don't live my life hiding behind a fucking chair, and everybody says, "Oh, Bo, he's gonna come after you. This one's coming after you." I locked up a lot of guys. My whole thing is, they want to come after me. If they're a fucking man, they'll face me. If they're a pussy, they'll shoot me in the back of my head. So,
did anyone ever come speak to you that maybe rehabilitated themselves and said, I turned my life around? Maybe not for something so serious.
No. I'd listen. Honestly, as I get older, I get a little softer. and I get a little melancholy, right? If this guy was to want to meet with me and he sincerely feels that what he did in his lifetime proceed that, would I be nice to him? I'd listen to him. I'd like to see what he says, because there's one thing about me. I talk to somebody, I look in the eyes, I know when a person's real, lying, telling me the truth or not telling me the truth. I wouldn't mind sitting down with him and talk to him and let him tell me what the fuck was going through his head when you killed these kids. Why? Why did you kill all these children? What was the motive behind killing all? The motive was obvious. He had to kill them all because he owed $7,000, and they knew him. That was the motive of the Palm Sunday Massacre.
So that's why no one moved, or everyone kind of sat still.
They were frightened. I personally think he held the 18-month-old in his arm when he was systematically shooting. A lot of people panic. We see with these mass shootings, people freeze. My fucking thing is we teach it now. ABC, avoid, a barricade, or confront. Hey, if you're going to get fucking killed and a guy comes in here shooting, we got this big guy behind the mic over here, I'll say, let's go for the motherfucker and hit him with a chair. What are you going to stand there and get shot?
Yeah, so that's a lot of people used to just be told to run and hide, but now
no. It is ABC. Avoid, obviously, run the fuck away if you can. Barricade the fucking door, or if you ain't got nothing else, when that guy goes to reload, bust his fucking head, hit him with chairs. Do whatever you got to do.
Okay, so let's talk about one positive thing that happened out of this. That one young infant that was the only survivor. She was adopted by Chief Jaffe. Yeah.
Jaffe was a 3-star chief. She was the patrol officer that got her that day. Eventually, she adopted her. And right now, she's her adopted daughter. And Jaffe's a good friend of mine. I know her since she's a young cop, and her husband, Lenny. She was outraged also. She was never notified. The surviving child, was also very frightened of this guy, obviously.
Sure.
Reason. God knows what images, even though she's 18 months old, I don't remember when I was 18 months old, but maybe this horrific incident, she knew about it. She knew all her family got wiped out. It wasn't that it didn't happen. So, the great part about it was, again, Senator Golden from Brooklyn, the senator, and Nicole Malatakis, the assembly lady. They went and we went together. We had a news conference. They were able to get legislation that nobody with manslaughter will be allowed out. So, in other words, this legislation doesn't have any effect on Christopher Thomas, but in the future, you have good behavior, they ain't going to count on shit. You're going to do your time. That's the way it should be. And so also, if you're a cop killer, you shouldn't never have fucking probation or anything. You should be in jail the rest of your life. If you kill a cop, that's the circumstance around it. And now these yo-yos up in Albany there with this parole board, they're letting these fucking scumbags out right and left. And you got to remember Herman Bell, when Piagentini was laying on the floor, Jones, black guy, Piagentini, Italian guy, he killed both of them. He shot him, and then Piagentini was on the ground begging, I got 2 kids, please. He shot him in the fucking balls, this piece of shit Herman Bell. He's out of jail too. Let's have a fucking party.
So I think maybe some people aren't familiar with this. I don't want to go too off into a tangent, but the BLA was...
Yeah, Black Liberation
Army. They were
Army.
responsible for the deaths of several cops. They were actively targeting cops and lured officers, Piagentini and Jones, into a warehouse. And
you got to remember, one year we had 11 killed, another year we had 13 killed. The Black Liberation Army was killing fucking people, and that was their whole thing. They weren't a political offense or that they were upset about politics. They were murdering motherfuckers, and that's it. They weren't like Martin Luther King, peaceful shit. They wanted to fucking take out cops and kill them. They didn't give a shit about that cop and his children. All they cared about was killing cops, and it's disgusting. And you want to know something? In today's progressive arena, I think we even have in the city council, I think we have a former member of the BLA in the city council. That just shows you how fucking retarded this city is. And I'm glad I didn't win for mayor, because if I won for mayor, we'll do a podcast about me running for mayor. If I ran for mayor, I'd be the first mayor recalled, because I think I would have smacked half of these fucking city council punks. Because one thing I don't like is when people don't care about the majority of the population. Everyone should have have. And police officers are our first line of defense. Are there bad ones there? Sure. But like I said, when you have millions of interactions every day, and when you condemn a police department for every cop, they don't want to do nothing now. And this poor kid that got killed in the Bronx, when he was stabbed, now they're saying cops were nearby. I don't believe that, because no cop would stand by letting someone get stabbed. But they're trying to say, but I talk to cops. They don't want to get fucking involved because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be fired. We got to come to a place where cops got to be able to be respected, and cops got to respect the community. It's a two-way fucking street. But right or wrong, a cop is in uniform. If you don't like what he or she does, you have avenues to complain. You respect the cop, because that is the final thing between us and anarchy. When you're getting somebody coming through the window robbing this place, who are you going to call? You're going to call the cops. When you're in trouble, who are you going to call? The police. Respect cops, and I want cops to respect people too. It's a two-way street.
So you learned that, being on the streets, you said that story about you taking care of the welfare of the kids. Do you think that this kind of started back in the 80s when, cops wanted to close out cases and, not really stay on the street as much? Do you lose that instinct?
No, I think this whole thing happened with the advent of the progressive mayor, Big Bird de Blasio, when he came out, when they had the demonstrations, when they were destroying property. What did we want? Dead cops. When did we want them now? And he let them shut down the fucking Brooklyn Bridge, shut down the roadways. What right do you have to shut down? How about a guy that works his whole day, wants to go home and have his dinner with his children and wife, and he can't go anywhere? Where's his fucking rights? And then that's when he put the environment in New York City, when that scumbag from Baltimore came up and shot the two cops in Brooklyn in their head and killed them. Also, when the cops turned their back on this Big Bird de Blasio, he's a fucking communist. Yeah, I call you a communist, Mayor de Blasio. You should go back to fucking Havana or go back with the Sandinistas, because you're a communist. And you want to know something? There are good people in this city, and you're not the person that really can help these people, because the cops hate your fucking guts everywhere I go, and I hate your fucking guts. That's why I ran for mayor. Fuck you.
All right. So, some Bo's takes on the police department as it is, and
well, you don't want to know something? Big weekend coming up. All
right, tell us about this.
Atlantic City, the old Taj Mahal now is the Hard Rock Casino. My friend Jack Morris and Joe Gingoli, along with Jim Allen, bought that place. They threw about $600 million in there, and it's a great casino, beautiful, brand new, the most immaculate casino. On top of it, we got Thursday, we got my man Jamie Foxx. Friday, we got Carrie Underwood. Saturday, we got Pitbull. How fucking cool is that going to be?
It seems like it's a star-studded event.
And Bo will be there. Okay. I'll be breaking guitars. That's how they open up the casino, the Hard Rocks. At noon on Thursday, I'll be busting some fucking guitars on the stage.
All right, so we went from busting heads to busting guitars.
Yep.
And everything in between. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please like, subscribe, and give us a great rating. Every week we're going to be giving away a copy of Bo's book, autographed and personalized. So please follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. We are at One Tough Podcast. Bo is on Twitter at Bo Deedle and on Instagram at The Real Bo Deedle. And for all questions, comments, topics you'd like us to cover, please email us onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Carl.